everybody, I want you to meet Mark Passamaneck. Did I get that right?
Passamaneck.
Passamaneck. Okay, my wife gets it right. Passamaneck. I'm going to work on that. This is Mark. So, okay, we have a really good live stream. I'm going to take a moment and I'm going to share this link over to the Facebook group. We're gonna we're gonna get some viewers in here. That's what we need. So, what state are you in, Mark?
I am in Colorado.
Yeah. What's your weather like?
Right now it's fine. It was 60 today. So this past weekend we had snow on Monday and a little bit on Tuesday. Teens and 20s, and then it moved on out. So
very good. Well, we got 5 on. They'll start. There we go. We got Kim Thomas on. Now, can you read the comments, Mark?
I cannot see any comments.
Okay, that's fine. I was going to have you do some read the names off, but that's just fine. What do you have for what do you use? Just a desk PC or what?
So yeah, I've just got a desk PC and I've got a Logitech HD Pro webcam.
Oh, there you go. So we got Kyle Luscon, we got Jason Foley, we got Nick L. Nick's here, man. He's always here. Guys, this can be a really good live stream. I have a really good guy on here. I want to mention a few things while we have the viewers stacking on. We got Ty Klinger. Hey, he's got 2 inches of snow on the porch. We have Jeff Moore. Hello, all. Bob Preston, Steve Warrell. You guys you're really going to be grateful you jumped on. This is probably going to be the best live stream I've had. And so before we get going, I want to share with you guys my wife's Facebook group. She's really got a good group, and I'm a part of it. And it's for guys like me. It's called Happy Shedders. It's for losing weight, and I need to do that. I know that. Not that I care about what I look like, but I just want to feel better, and that's what my wife's group is about. And she just decided she wanted to do that, and she started it. So there's the link. If you go over there, request to join. It's kind of neat because okay, I started a challenge against the women this week, but I've been on vacation yesterday, today, and tomorrow, so I forgot all about it. And the girls are probably killing me. But we just put what we eat every day, and we motivate each other. And so Miss Highboy is on. So go over there and join her group. So I want to introduce a really good guy. He is one of the moderators for our Facebook group. And I want to introduce you to Mark. How do I say your last name?
Passamaneck.
Passamaneck. I am going to work on that. But I know him as Mark, and we've become friends over time. But I want to tell you guys why he's one of my Facebook moderators. One, I kind of feel to be a moderator, you got to be the kind of person. Robin Sharpless, the Executive Vice President, Reading Reloading, he says he never looks down on someone unless he's looking back to help him up. And that is Mark. When I met Mark, he just had all this information he was willing to give, and I thought, man, this guy's great. And the other reason he's one of my mods is I don't know of anyone that shoots as much as he does. I really don't. Maybe Jerry Mitchell by I don't know, a couple cylinderfuls a year, something like that. But the wealth of knowledge that Mark has. So I want to introduce Mark to everybody. And this is at the end of this live stream. We're going to hold it to about an hour. We're going to open it up for questions. We're not hold your questions to the end because I don't want to have to search through the comments for the questions. We'll just let you open up with questions. But Mark's going to tell you a little bit about what he does in life. And then he's going to talk about the competitive shooting world. And then there's a topic that I really want him to drive home, and that's the topic of flinching. Is flinching really bad? Is it really bad? Well, Mark's going to talk about that. And I'm going to pretty much turn this over to him. I want to thank him for I'm humbled that someone of his knowledge and where he's at in the world would take the time to do this. So everyone, welcome, Mark.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it. So I'll tell you a little bit about my professional career, and then we'll move into the more of the gun stuff. So I'm a mechanical engineer, and I work in the forensic engineering field. And so forensic engineering, I basically am an expert witness. I testify in court. I figure out what happened. I'd say it's a lot of common sense. I tell people that it's a third cop, a third attorney, a third actor, and a third engineer. Yeah, that all adds up to more than 100%. But depending on what you're doing, it's different. So areas that I work on are all mechanical. I've done several cases that are vehicle accident reconstruction. I do natural gas, propane, explosions, fires, carbon monoxide. And then what might be more interesting to your viewers is I do shooting reconstruction and gun failure accidents. So about once a month, I end up getting hired by either a manufacturer or an attorney or an insurance company or law enforcement to determine either sequence of shootings, or if the gun has failed, if the gun failed in a manner that is due to maintenance, operator error, or a mechanical failure, maybe related to the manufacturer. So I told Bill earlier that I was the first expert in the country to be allowed to testify on basically using autopsy, virtual autopsy, to determine the velocity that a bullet entered somebody's body. So it's interesting. Yes, sometimes it's morbid. I think I've worked on about 200 fatality cases, but I like the challenge. It's never the same. I travel all over the country, looking at a variety of things, and I get to use the knowledge that I learned in school and a lot of common sense and just being around a bunch of different things. So I really enjoy that. My second company is Carbon Arms, and Carbon Arms is kind of a genesis of several companies. Many years ago, I did training, trained about 5,000 people, CCW. And Carbon Arms is more of a manufacturing company. If y'all have paid attention to all the 3-gun, you'll see that we load with twins and quads. So we're grabbing 2 shells out of a caddy, and that caddy looks a little bit like this. So we're grabbing 2 shells at a time out of that caddy and loading them in the shotgun or 4. So what I'm really known for in some of the 3-gun circles is being the shotgun guy who brought those systems to the US. So there's a lot of companies that after we brought that out have copied it. But that's an injection molded part that we manufacture here in Colorado, and we sell all over the country and even the US. The first product we made was a carbon feather handguard. So this is here's the barrel nut tube, and here's the carbon fiber tube. But it is an ultralight handguard made out of carbon fiber for the AR-15. We make it for 308 and AR-15 comp. So this is my gas hog comp. You can see that it is very unique in that it is a single port comp. 12 hours on a great computer doing the computational fluid dynamics to model that comp. One of the things that's kind of cool about it is it's very quiet to the shooter. So that was one of the things that I was after, is no increased concussion to the shooter. We have a belt that we make. The belt that I showed you is the same belt. So here's one of our premium belts. It's got a ratchet on it. So if you ever skied, and the ski industry, it's got this ratchet. And so what that allows people in competition to do is to put their belt on, but they can crank it down when they shoot, and then they can hit the release and loosen it up when they're just walking around. So that has been a phenomenal seller for us in the last
awesome.
year and a half, 2 years. People across all of this shooting disciplines are starting to use our ratchet system and our belt. So we make an entire belt and just the ratchet kit itself to adapt on your belt. The last company that I'm working on is we're actually, there's two other shooters that are friends of mine, and we're going into the oil well industry, doing a new type of oil well fracturing that is more green. Um, the being green is because we're not using as much water and sand, but it is a proven method, and it was mismanaged by the original inventor, who is my father. And so, as he's aged and retired, we decided to take it over and try to push that technology. So there's the business side of it. That's what I do to keep myself busy during the day.
And do you ever have much free time?
You know, I went home office about 2 years ago. So my wife does the books for the company. I would get up in the morning and I read my Bible verses, read the news, get some of the emails out of the way, and then I hit it. So I try to be very efficient with my time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have some time. So
Yeah, that's great. And you know, we all have the same amount of time every day. It's just how you manage it, huh?
totally. Yep.
Yeah. Mm. So, give the guys, okay, I'm going to throw some questions out there for you. How many rounds a year do you shoot?
The high that I've ever seen that I've actually counted was 60,000. I'd say on an average year, I'm probably somewhere between 30 and 35,000.
How many of those are your reloads?
Probably close to 20,000 are my reloads.
Mhm.
You know, typically I'm looking at somewhere between 5 and 10,000 in shotgun shells, and I don't reload shotgun. I mean, I've got a press to do it. I just don't do it right now because it's not economical. And then, obviously a couple thousand rounds of uh, rimfire, and I probably shoot a couple hundred rounds of factory a year if I'm testing a specific gun for a specific reason.
Very neat. So, okay, on your reloads, are those new cases?
New or used, or I think I've been up to about 25 fired on my 45.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Um, so, but you don't get that chance to pick them up, do you?
Not a lot. So here's an interesting tidbit. Even though I shoot a lot, I also run major matches. And so I typically go to a couple of matches a year where I work a stage, or I actually am the range master or match director for a stage. So I will pick up, I would say by the end of the year, this year, I think I brought home 4 5-gallon buckets full of brass from matches. Now, picking up brass off the range can always be an interesting process. Most of it ends up being 9mm and 223. And so all that stuff that I don't know it came out of my gun, especially stuff that I don't know how it's processed, typically goes into my lower pressure competition loads. So like when I shoot 3-gun, my 55 grain full metal jacket, I shoot a pretty soft load of accurate 2200, and I'm running about 2,600 feet per second with a 55 grain. So it's a pretty soft load.
Yeah, right.
So the pressure's pretty low. Use a little bit faster powder, to keep the gun working. Same thing with 9mm. I use a pretty fast powder. I use E3. Somebody will probably say, wow, go look up E3 and try to find my load. But there is no 9mm load data for E3. It's a shotgun powder. But it's a really clean powder with a high volume, very close to red dot. I spent some time talking to the ballistician for Alliant who works on that powder, and we've talked about loads. And so that's primarily I use about 8 pounds a year, about 15,000 rounds of 9mm. What I get out of 8 pounds.
Nice. Very nice. So tell the guys a little bit about your reloading setup.
So I've got 4 presses in the room. I've got an old 12 gauge shotgun press that's set up for 1 ounce Winchester AA hulls and windjammers, and that's all I load on it. I have a Redding T7. I haven't got it quite everything converted over to it, and that's typically is what I'm loading on that is what I had been loading on my Rock Chalker single stage. So for all my precision rounds, I was pretty much using the Rock Chalker. So now I'm slowly converting all those calibers over to a dedicated tool head. So my 260, my 243, my 338, 308, all those things are being converted over. And then my progressive is a Dillon 650 XL. I load 308, 223, and then 8 pistol calibers on that.
Very nice. Okay, here's a technical question for you. And I kind of think I know what you might say. I'll just let you say it.
Okay.
What is it about the T7 that offers you more precision and functionality?
Well, I'm not sure I can answer that completely yet because I don't have enough rounds on it. I've only got about 1,000 rounds on it. But to me, it's as solid as the Rock Chucker was. But the benefit to me is I don't have to reset my dies all the time.
That's the functionality side. That's why I use the word functionality.
Yeah.
The reason that I think that, I believe that the T7 is more precision than the single stage is because now that you have those dies set up, and if you're utilizing the instant indicator, you can go back and forth real time from your resize die to measuring where every case is down to the thousandth.
Right.
That's where I think the T7 has the single stage press beat, hands down.
Oh, I agree. I mean, I don't think I'm going to sell the Rock Chucker, but it may be off the bench here by the end of the winter.
Well, sad to say, but I love my single stage presses, but I usually I have my Mighty Armory universal decap on this one.
Yep.
Because I just don't take a single stage anymore, and like you, I just don't utilize it for a die that I'm going to put in and swap out. Doesn't make sense, right? Here's a question for you. On your Dillon XL650, I always get guys that ask me this. I don't have any other upgrades on my Dillon, the aftermarket upgrades or wherever you get them,
Sure.
to stop that press from flinging powder. But one thing that guys don't understand about powder is it doesn't weigh anything. So based off inertia, powder's going to go where that press wants to send it.
It does.
You'll never 100% beat that, will you?
Hold on a second. Sorry. Forgot to turn my phone off. There you go.
I had to do that to mine. So you'll never beat that powder spillover, will you?
I think I've done some things to mitigate it. I've tried the polymer ball in the detent instead of the steel ball that comes from the factory. And honestly, I don't think it changes anything much at all.
Mm-hmm.
I do have on mine the roller bearing. So, the bolt that goes into the center over the shell plate, in between that, there's 2 metal discs. There's a roller bearing in between it. What that allows me to do is to get that bolt a little bit tighter than it needs to be if I don't have the roller bearing. And so that seems to help a little bit as well. And I think also some of it is when it snaps at the end, it is also related to how the shell is being ejected. So I've got the bend on my case ejector, and it puts a little bit of pressure, and I think it slows it down just a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's not hitting it, snapping, and popping that case out. It's rolling. It's actually kind of creating some pressure by binding that case just a little bit. It slows the shell plate down.
Well, like on the Hornady lock and load, when you pull the handle down and it comes up
Right.
halfway, and then when you bring the handle up, it finishes. Well, with the Dillon, up it goes, and then when the handle comes up, it makes that entire
Yep.
rotation, or to the next stage.
Right.
Well, really, don't ask me why, but I had a lot more spillover with my Hornady. Um, not an amazing amount. In my opinion, I guess they could both be comparable in a way,
Sure.
but it just goes to show you that the granule of powder really doesn't weigh anything. It's kind of like it's kind of like when you open up those primers and you go too hard and they just go everywhere and you didn't do much because
Right.
they don't have any mass, right? So they're gonna go. The
Right.
wind could blow them off the bench if it was strong enough. So that's what we're dealing with powder. Um, that ball that you talk about, that it's plastic or whatever. I've had guys tell me that. That's why I didn't get that. They said, well, it didn't really change nothing. It's not as positive of a lockup, but it didn't change it. So, real quick. What time is it? We're doing really good on time. Real quick, I want everybody to type Mark's name. I'm going to call you off. We got such great guys, and it's about my viewers, our viewers. I shouldn't say my viewers, but and we got Walter on. So everyone type Mark's name, and I'm going to call your name off. We're going to do roll call, and at the end we're going to do roll call. We'll just tell everyone to have a good night. But I just want to see who's here. So we got Andy 79Z28. We got Nick L. We got Walter Bunning. We got Kyle Lusk. We got Charles Miller, Jeff Moore. I know we got a ton more. This is a really good live stream. Jason Foley, Bob Preston, John Connors, Tim Pace, Odd Todd, Sile Collar, Ty Klinger, CS for Loading Bench. Hey, it's good to see you, buddy. I haven't seen you for a while. What else we got out there? We got a good bunch. One thing Dub the Kid 84. One thing I like is I just keep I only keep the good guys on the Facebook group. But the crazy thing is, I think I've only got rid of one person off there. I can't really remember. Chico Wise. So okay, everybody, just to update you, this is Mark. He's a really good friend. He's one of my moderators on our gun group over there on Facebook. And if you're not a part of that, I'm going to put a link. This is the 76 High-Bar Loading Guns and Ammo and Coffee Facebook group. I'm going to put a link. If you're not a part of the group, get over there. And Mark is one of my moderators, and he's a moderator because he has knowledge and he's willing to share it. And we need more people like that in life. So I have a question for you, Mark. I had never shot long range before. The most I really ever shot was like 400 yards, just typical redneck hunter, But I had a chance to shoot with the guy this year. He had a 260 Remington. I was like, oh my gosh. And I got to go 1,000 yards. And what I learned is, I did really good, but you got to know how to run the scope. And he did all this. Man, he was fast. Right? And former Army, and he knew what he was doing. But what's your thoughts on the 260 Remington?
Well, my main competition gun that I shoot PRS and the hike and shoot matches with is a 260 Remington.
That's why I asked you, because I knew you shot that.
Like it. I bounce back and forth. Nothing wrong with a 6.5 Creedmoor at all. And I think in the 6.5 there's a lot of cartridges. There's 6.5 by 47s. There's the 260, and there's a lot of them. And I think anytime you're running those 120 to 145 ish grain bullets, from 2,700 to 3,000 feet per second. I mean, that it's a real nice, stable, predictable a bullet. And so I shoot mine out to you know, 1250, 1300 here and there. I've made the mile shot with it, but you got to know what you're doing, and hopefully you read all the wind currents right exactly at the right time, because I say past 700 wind is really what separates the men from the boys.
Well, you see, the guy I went out with, and I'm just tell you this, he's developing a bullet.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to tell you. It's
Good.
incredible, right?
Yeah.
He was going out a mile. He was really good.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like he said, he was wind. It's the wind, you know, and it didn't take much. And what was funny is we could see the flag, and all of a sudden the flag would go this way.
Sure.
You couldn't judge it at all, you know.
Right.
But he was really good. And so I think 260 is a really it's a neat round. It's kind of funny though because some guys really trash the 260, and I don't know why.
Because it's an old cartridge. It's not new. And I think that's really Remington did not do a whole lot of development and marketing of it. And so
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
that's it. I mean, I love the guys at Hornady, and, I'm friends with some of them, and, they've done a great job developing those cartridges. And, I tell you that 300 PRC, when it's available in a Bergara, I'm getting one of those. So that's a great cartridge.
Very nice. So we're going to open it up for questions. I'm going to watch the questions. We're going to open it up for questions. It's an open floor. It can be anything.
You wanted to talk about flinch, I think, too, didn't you?
Oh, we can't forget that. All right. Gosh, I almost forgot that. All right. So this is my pet peeve, and I'm going to kick it off, and then I'm going to flip it over to Mark. So you'll see videos out there, and you'll see some poor guy and he's shooting, and he flinches. I flinch. I mean, I flinch, and the reason I started live streaming my I don't have my membership at the indoor range anymore. But when I was there, I would live stream it. And the reason I would is I get these guys and they start bad mouthing. So I would just invite them, and then you wouldn't hear from them anymore. But everybody flinches. Everybody does. But in my mind, I don't think that flinching is actually a bad thing or a wrong thing. It might actually be the right thing, but it could bite you at certain times. So I'm going to turn this over to Mark. Mark is going to talk about flinching, and in my opinion, what he's going to say is the real deal, and we're going to talk about it. So I'll turn it over to you, Mark.
Okay. Well, one of the things about flinch is that there's a natural tendency of our body to respond to stimulus. So, there's noise, there's loud. Someone walks up behind you and claps their hands, you might jump a little bit. So we want the gun not to jump out of our hands, but also there's that noise. And so there's a response to it. That flinch is a different kind of flinch than what I'm going to talk about. We've talked about, I shoot 35,000 rounds a year. There are certain guns and there are certain circumstances where if I was to make a video and I saw myself flinch, I'd feel really bad. If I'm shooting my 260, anything past 100 yards, I don't want any flinch. I want follow through. I want it to be perfect. I want my natural point of aim, which means I'm completely rested. My body's completely supported, and I want the trigger to break. And I don't want to move at all. The only thing I want to move is the gun and recoil and come right back where it's at. On the opposite end of the spectrum, if say I'm shooting my Benelli at a plate rack in a 3-gun match, in order to be able to shoot that gun at the speed that I need to be able to shoot it at, 2.1, 2.2 seconds to clear a 6-plate plate rack, I actually have to put positive energy into the gun as I'm pulling the trigger to keep that muzzle flat. So if I were to pull the gun and let it recoil, it's going to move somewhere, and then I've got to get it back in to the next plate and the next plate and the next plate. If I know what the gun's going to do because I've done it enough times, I've practiced it, I know what it's going to do, I put a positive input into the gun and drive it so that when I press the trigger, I'm set up to go to the next plate. If, for instance, I was to pull the trigger and there was a dud, you would see the gun drop significantly. You would actually see my muzzle dip below the plate. if I'm shooting it and the gun goes off, you won't see that because it's flat. So depending on the type of gun that we're shooting, if we're trying to drive the gun at speed, I will guarantee you all of the top shooters, Jerry Mikulik, Rob Leatham, I will guarantee you that when they're shooting at their very high speed with a handgun or shotgun, they are putting some positive force against the gun right at the time they break the trigger.
Yeah. So now I had approached Mark on this. I don't know. It's been 6 months or more, maybe. But I'll just kind of share my experience and how it's evolved. And I shared this with Mark before we kicked this off. But for my life, I've always been going out shooting rabbits, squirrels, things like this. And my dad, he was always the legalist. Aim small, hit small, squeeze the trigger, no flinch. If you flinched, he'd whack you upside the head. Yeah, well, he was a great instructor. He was, and he made us follow through with that. When I started my channel, I was shooting a lot more. I have 2 videos where I was shooting at. I made a comment on the firearms forum. I believe it was that I had shot a pop can at 100 yards, double action, with my 3-inch revolver. Guy called me a liar. So I went out and I did it at 71. I made 2 videos. One was a single action with that 3-inch revolver. The other was double action. And both times I hit the pop can. But I was shooting a lot. If you ask me to go do that today, am I going to do it? No. But something has changed with me and my shooting. I bought my steel targets a few years ago and taking them out to the desert, banging steel and trying to go faster. What I learned is I had to push against the gun. Now that presented a problem for me because when I went back to my revolvers a little slower, guess what I'm wanting to do? I'm wanting to, my speed's off and I'm wanting to push against that gun at just a different rate. Okay.
Right.
And then what's weird is my revolvers, I shoot a lot heavier. I got 844 Magnums, right? So I am the flinch king, but here's the deal. If you're going to get back on that target fast, you have to push that revolver down. So that would reason that what Mark's saying, that you do want to control your flinching based on what you're shooting and what you're doing. But if you're just going to go from this fast semi-auto pistol over to this revolver where you're trying to squeeze the trigger, you're gonna flinch. There's gonna be differences.
Right. And in 3-gun, one of the things about 3-gun that's interesting is we'll shoot a rifle, a pistol, and a shotgun all on the same stage. You have 3 different styles of shooting. I may need to be shooting slugs and birdshot at a plate rack and pistol at 50 yards and a rifle at 600 yards. So that's one of the things that's hard for people is I got to switch gears. I got to be in a completely different gear and a different trigger press based on what I'm doing. And that's to me one of the reasons that makes 3-gun one of the hardest shooting disciplines is because you're having to manage not just 3 weapons and the transitions and the ammunition, but really a couple different styles of shooting at the same time.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think if I was going to get into any type of competitive shooting, that would probably be first on my list. I think, but man, that costs a lot of money, doesn't it? It's not cheap, is it?
It's not cheap. We basically say that if you're going to go to a major match, you're looking at $1,000. By the time you look at match fee, ammo, and all that stuff, and then you're taking typically, I mean, you can do it for probably $2,000 if you really, want to shoot limited and want to, get. And my boys shoot limited, and limited means you have a non-magnified optic or iron sights on your rifle, iron sights on your pistol and your shotgun. But I mean, you can do it for $2,000 easy. But most of the people who are shooting 3-gun who are pretty serious about it, they're stepping in line with $5,000-$6,000 worth of gear in their 3 guns, their belts, their magazines, their accessories. It's a big chunk. It's a big chunk.
Yeah, it is, and a lot of time and dedication.
Oh yeah, I mean a lot of time put in on the range, running those systems and doing the transitions, gun to gun transitions. And, I'll be honest with you, we run a local 3-gun match. I don't know, 5-10% of the people who show up at their first match DQ because they end up putting a gun down and not putting the safety on, or doing something stupid. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to keep track of. So.
Yeah, right. Actively thinking, not passively, huh?
Yep.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot of pressure on a shooter. It really is. What does DW mean? What's DW mean?
I'm sorry, what? Oh, DQ?
Oh, DQ.
Disqualification.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So a buddy of mine who's a former SEAL and does high risk VIP protection. I finally convinced him to go shoot a 3-gun match a couple years ago. And he comes to the match. There was like 150 people in the match. He finished, I kid you not, dead center, right in the middle. And he walked up to me and he goes, 6 years on the teams, 4 years before that, and now I've got 10 years in executive protection. He goes, that was the most difficult thing I've ever done.
Wow. Yeah, I can only imagine. But the other thing, I thought about doing it, but we're trying to get our house paid off. But you like my knees aren't what they were 10 years ago.
Oh, mine aren't either.
You just suck it up and go, huh?
You suck it up and go. Yep.
Yeah. I do think it would be very fun.
Yep.
So I would imagine a lot of guys, their first time, you just cut them a lot of slack because they're trying hard. So you gotta give them credit. I mean, that's a lot of pressure to get there. I guess if I was going to do a 3-gun, I would just know that probably for my, what I would think of it as kind of like guys that get into racing, race cars. Their first year out there, they're always behind, right? Especially circle track, right? They're always the last. But then you start getting better, and I would think that's kind of how 3-gun is, huh?
It is. I mean, I can say I go and shoot a stage, and maybe I'll be, there's 45 rounds. I'll shoot the stage in 25 seconds. Somebody who's new is probably going to take 120 seconds to shoot the same stage.
Yeah.
But we walk them through it. We typically, and almost all the people who shoot 3-gun, we walk them through it. Same in PRS and even USPSA and IDPA. We walk them through it. We say, go slow, get your hits, pay attention, and add the speed, the foot speed at least, as you learn the game. So nobody's ever won their first match that I know of.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm sure. Well, and that brings me to this. I'm going to tell everyone why I quit my membership at the indoor range. This kind of just always bugged me. It just bugged me. I kind of like I was stepping out of my own shoes, looking at myself. And I'm not knocking anyone. Some people, all they have is indoor ranges. You just got to shoot where you have it, right? But here I have this desert out here. And when I'm out in the desert, like, especially when I'm by myself, I'll start target shooting. I'm like, I'm going to go get a rabbit. Or I just go, right? Shooting squirrels or whatever. Because when I'm moving and I'm shooting, see, that's what I didn't like about the indoor range. It's kind of like this. Bang, 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 bang. And in the indoor range, I don't want my mag to hit the concrete. So I slip it down at the table and I put the next one in. And after like an hour, if I get in a gunfight in my house, I'm not going to have a bench. And I'm going to be like, I'm not going to be standing in the hallway. I'm going to be like coming around the corner. Yep. And so for me, I thought the indoor range was actually putting really bad habits on me that I would rather be in. The thing about the desert, you twist your ankles a lot and you got to get back up because you watch where you walk. If you step in a gopher hole, you got to recover off that, right? And so that's why I quit. What's your thoughts?
I belong to 2 outdoor ranges and 1 indoor range.
Uh-huh.
And the indoor range that I belong to is probably one of the best ranges in the whole country. They got target cams at 100 yards. I primarily am shooting at the indoor range for 2 things. One, I just got to go shoot, and it's the winter.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing. And then the other thing is working on specific things. So if I've got a brand new gun, I'm typically going to go to the indoor range with some factory ammo, make sure everything's fine before I'm putting my reloads and stuff in it. And, make sure my gun's zeroed and horizontal and all that kind of stuff. And then the other thing that I'll do is our range has a live fire simulator. It's TI makes it, but there's 3 lanes, but it's a full screen and there's all kinds of things that you can do on it. And it's fun when I go to the range with the AR pattern 308, especially doing load development. So I took like 300 rounds of ammo, and when I would shoot a couple rounds, I'm like, okay, I know what I need to know out of that particular load. I would go on. So by the time I was done doing all the load development, I had like 150 rounds left. So I go into the simulator range, and they have I'll call it a video game called Chaos City, and put the laser on my 308. I shot 150 rounds of 308 in about 15 minutes.
Wow.
That's a video game.
That's a video game.
I mean,
that's cool.
Just a blast.
So, yeah. I don't think any of our viewers would argue with that. Yeah, that's right.
Anyway.
Well, see, okay, and I do think an indoor range serves its purpose. In the morning, I'm going over to the indoor range with my Ransom handgun rest. I have 2 indoor ranges, and the one I was going to, for one use, you're talking $45. For $48 a month, I could go unlimited, but I would just rather go out to the desert. So the one that's closer to me is 3 minutes from me. I can go over there a couple nights a month or one night a month for $10-12 and shoot, and that's fine.
Yep.
Like you say, I'm there for certain things, sighting in, learning a new gun, whatever. Yeah.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
Well, what questions do we have?
What questions do we have? Any questions out there? Now's your chance. If you got questions on reloading, now's your chance. Because I don't know how to reload. I have no idea. I used to always have guys, when I started my channel, you've got to know Greg. This is his rifle, and Greg Morrow. He's also one of our moderators. When I started my channel, I never wanted to be this guy that said, well, I know it all, but I get these guys and they would, come on and say, you don't know what you're doing, and they just want to trash you. So I figure, well, I'll get the picture of this guy's rifle, and then they can go talk to him about what I do or don't know. And the funny thing is when Reading Reloading, they hooked me up with Greg, and when I talked to Greg on the phone, he was like, I said, when I first met him, he said, yes, my name is Greg Morrow. What can I do for you? And I said, well, I told him, my name and my channel. And I said, I would like I said, this is what I want. I said, my channel is about reloading ammunition. What I'd like is, I want someone that loads on the Reading equipment that's a long distance shooter like yourself that would send them a picture of their rifle, and I'll have the graphics made, but I'd like to put your rifle on the back of my wall, so all these guys that come onto the channel that want to say I don't know what I'm talking about, I can say, well, no, this is a guy that supports me, so get lost. And what Greg said is, he said, well, I don't know about YouTube. I've seen some pretty scary things, so I'll get back with you later. And that was into the phone call. Next day he calls us, he says, well, do you want a picture of the $10,000 rifle or the $20,000 rifle? I'm like, well, you just send me the one you want. I'm not going to argue this, And so that made me feel like what I was doing was right. If you're going to, I always felt if I'm going to do this right, just remain humble, be who I am, but get really good people like Greg and like Mark just to be a part of it and bring the information together. That's my job, Okay. Okay. We got our first question by Jeff Moore. Jeff Moore, awesome guy. You probably know most of these guys from the Facebook group. You can see them over there. He says, what does Mark like the best for a carry gun?
Well, I carry 2 primary carry guns, a Car PM9 and a Keltec PF9.
Okay, what was the first one?
Car PM9.
Oh, okay, all right. K-A-H-R.
I'm sorry, what?
That's spelled K-A-H-R, right?
K-A-H-R. So that's my primary carry gun right there. I'm not sure if I'm too close. Got night sights on it. This is a fist ultra thin holster, but that's my primary carry gun. That's probably 250 days a year is probably the number of days that guy gets carried.
Mm-hmm. Nice. I've seen the cars. Okay, the car's a double action, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a double action only type trigger.
Yeah. So why? What do you like about it?
A couple things. One, for me, it's real shootable. And I'm not one of these kind of people who wants to shoot just a little bit. So, my carry guns, when I go to the range, I typically will take my carry gun and 100 rounds of ammo to shoot the carry gun.
Mm-hmm.
And so, this gun, I've had this for about 10 years, I think. It's probably got, I'm going to say, it's probably got 15,000 rounds through it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's quite a bit. There's some of the carry guns, just personal opinion, they're not going to last 15,000 rounds.
Yeah, like we won't make you say them who they are, but I mean,
but yeah, there are some that just
you got to admit something here.
Right.
When that question was asked, I bet a lot of guys were, including myself, were thinking, "Oh, this guy's got a SIG or a H2K, right?" I've been checking out the car. I'd like to try it out. It's purely double action.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got the PM9. So the CM9 is very close. It's a couple $100 less. And the parts are not CNC cut, and the barrel rifling is a little bit different. But from my perspective, I've shot them both side by side. They both shoot very well. I like them both. Just I got the PM9 before the CM9 even became an option.
Okay. Kyle Lusk is asking, what's your favorite caliber?
338.06. That is absolutely my favorite caliber. That's my main elk hunting rifle. It's a 338.06 in a Weatherby ultra lightweight, and I actually was fortunate enough to buy that rifle from Jim Smart, who is the Weatherby rep for the Western region. So I bought it from him as a 1-year-old gun that he had bought as a demo. So I got a screaming deal on it, and I take it to the range the first time, and I put 210 grain Nosler partitions in it, and at 100 yards shot a 3/8 inch screw. So ultralights, 5.5 pound rifle shooting a 33 caliber bullet at 2,800 feet per second with a 26-inch pencil barrel is not supposed to shoot. This gun just shoots.
Wow, that's awesome.
Just absolutely love it.
Next question. What about Glock? Your opinion?
So
now, I'm going to say something before I say this.
Sure.
You don't have to answer in any negativity. I try not to do that. So I don't want to put you on the spot,
I like triggers. And if triggers happen to become wrapped in a Glock or wrapped in nice metal and wood, I'm good with it.
I agree.
So, my story with Glock is I was the first guy in Colorado to go down the gun store and buy a Glock 22 and shoot a USPSA match with it. And I got a lot of people really mad at me because here's this, guy that's nobody really knew, and he shows up and he's got 15 more rounds in his gun or 5 more rounds in his gun than anybody else. So I did really well. I shot the Glock in USPSA until I made A class. And once I made A class, I set it aside. I do some consulting for various law enforcement departments, and Glock is always on the list. Always on the list of that is a gun that is suitable. I've in my forensic work, I've actually worked against Glock. I actually was working on a case where the attorney for Glock started asking me questions about the safety and all these esoteric questions related to the Glock. And finally, my client, who's an attorney, started objecting. He goes, "What are you asking him for that about it?" And we got up, took a break, and he goes, "You don't recognize me, do you?" I'm like, "No." He goes, "I'm Glock's corporate attorney." And he was asking me questions because there was another case that I was working on that involved the Glock. So yeah, I like them. Is it a primary gun for me at this point? No, but I think they have their place and their purpose.
Yeah. I had a Glock Model 21. It My Springfield shoots better for me. I love my Springfield. I do. But I can't complain about the Glock. If I had to shoot a Glock, I'd shoot a Glock.
Right.
It never failed me, and it was a second from the police department, man. And the thing just ran. I can't say anything bad about the Glock. But just the Springfields fit me better, and of course the 1911s fit me the best. They do, because they don't have the capacity that my Springfield does. Chica-wise, I'm curious, how long has Mark been reloading, and what was his first caliber ever reloading, and why?
So let's see. I have been reloading. So I guess it'd be about 28 years I've been reloading. And even though my dad had bought my current rock chucker press, he had bought it, he bought some dies for hunting rifles. We had not gotten to the point where we actually needed to load ammo yet. So I started shooting some competition where I was shooting 9mm, and I started to get to the point I'm like, hey, I'm going through ammo like crazy. So my first reloads were 9mm on a Lee Pro 1000.
The big boy.
Yep.
It worked, didn't it?
It worked, and I was in college, and I was poor, and I ordered a press. It was $79 to my door, set up to reload 9mm. And
how many rounds did you put up that?
About 110,000.
Okay, so what would you say? Like, you got to imagine how many guys get a hold of me and they ask me what I think of Lee, and I have good things to say, and they can't believe it. So what would you say to someone that's on that witch hunt that just talks bad about Lee?
Well, I mean, I think it depends on what product you're talking about. I think there's witch hunts. There's people who say, they had a bad experience with, an RCBS die or a Lee die or a Redding die, and therefore everything sucks from that manufacturer. I don't believe that. I have tool heads for some of my calibers that, I've got 3 different manufacturers of dies in that tool head, because I believe that particular die that they make for what I want to do and how I want to set it up is the best. I've got a Lee factory crimp die on a couple of my calibers because I want a Lee factory crimp die. There's some stuff that they do that nobody else does, like loading the 450 Bushmaster. I use a stab crimp, and it's a modified 4570 die. Well, nobody else even makes something that I can do a stab crimp on a 450 Bushmaster with. And you're shooting 300 grain slugs in a 450 Bushmaster. You don't want those overall case. You don't want that bullet going deeper in the case because you have problems. So the stab crimp solves that problem. So, I've got Lee product and RCBS product and Forster product, Lyman product. Obviously, I've got Dillon and Redding. I buy the tool that for me fits the purpose that I want it for that goal. That's what I do. That's what I look at.
Yeah, so naturally I have everything set up on colors, but if I didn't have a YouTube channel, I don't have my equipment based off this is blue. I wouldn't have to have everything blue, and I wouldn't have to have everything green. If I had set up, it would be like it always was. I have a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and everything has a purpose built into it. And I think that's how most reloaders are. That's just me.
I mean, that's the way I operate. So it makes the most sense to me.
Yeah, the end result is what you're putting down range. So
Yeah.
yeah. Hey, and I got a question for you. Okay, this is like the flinching thing. That's my pet peeve when guys just start bad mouthing guys because they're flinching. It's kind of like, yeah, I'd like to see you shoot. Come on to my channel. I'll let you shoot. Well, I'll watch. Well, I'll stare at you.
Right.
Okay, so this is another pet peeve of mine. I don't have a problem really with. I don't have a problem with someone that wants to clean their brass till it's like a Harley Davidson covered in gold. I don't have a problem with that. I don't, because sometimes I do it. But what I do have a problem with is when someone is telling other people that that's the point. You have to do that. You have to have that primer pocket so clean, or you're not going to have accuracy. Would you talk about accuracy and the cleanliness of cases? Because from my experience, that clean of a case isn't going to get you any more mileage. So I'll whatever you have to say.
I mean, I think that in certain circumstances, depending on the action, a cleaner, shinier case may help the action run a little bit smoother.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're helping the action run a little bit smoother, you probably got other issues anyway. If you need that clean of a case. So no, I mean, I want my cases clean. Because I don't want to be putting crap in between my chamber and my brass. I mean, that's the main reason that I clean cases.
That's right.
Aesthetically, I don't care what they look like, as long as they're smooth and there's no crap on them.
Yeah.
I've cleaned primer pockets. I've chamfered them. I've got one of those little lineman things where you chase the flash hole to clean it out.
Mm-hmm.
I've done it. I'm not sure that it really does a whole lot, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I've trickled loads. The only thing that I think I would say unequivocally across the board is if you overexpand your case mounts on bottleneck cartridges, you got to be careful with the crimp. And if you expand them less, I want my cases to have a chamfer on the inside at least, so I'm not scraping off jacket material. Other than those two things, I think it all depends on the purpose and the use.
Yeah, I'll buy that. I'll buy that. I think that's fair. So Walter's saying, scroll back up, Hi Boy. Lots of questions. I know there are, but me and Mark, we're going to hold this to an hour because what's your wife cooking you for dinner? Share this with everybody.
So I'm smelling it, but I have elk pot pie for dinner.
Wow, and my guys just happen to love pie. Don't ask me how I know, but they love pie. They really do.
Pie, yeah.
So I do have one last question, and the question is would you like to put together another live stream?
Sure.
A month.
As I'm thinking, we can do another live stream. I mean, if people have topics they want to address, I mean, there's a couple things that I think from the fact that I'm a forensic engineer and look at things. Some people may want to talk about, since we're dealing with reloading and brass, tumbling medias versus steel versus washing, and the whole lemishine, and there's some issues with that maybe some of your guys on your channel would be interested in.
Yeah, I think we could put that together. What I might ask of you, if you don't mind, based off what you just said, if you would start a log, a ledger,
mm-hmm.
because I'm going to forget what you just said, but those are actually really good. And if you want to build on that, I would say let's get through into the first of the year. How's that? We got holidays coming up. It's going to fly by, but in January, let's put together a killer live stream talking about like some of the stuff you just brought up. And I'm sure, and I'll keep a ledger, and you and me will get together, we'll share, and we'll come up with a really good live stream. And maybe we can go a little over an hour and cover some good ground. What do you say?
Sure. Yeah. Maybe I'll pop a couple of things up on the Facebook and see if people have interest in them. Like maybe one of these things that just happened, in the last day or two that was, somebody got really mad at me because I said, hey, you shouldn't be shooting animals at that range with match bullets. Use a proper big game bullet. Now, the caveat is there are some match bullets that have good game performance. There's others that don't.
Mm-hmm.
But, if I pull a trigger at an animal, I'm the kind of guy, I want it dead now.
Yeah.
And the meat that comes with the animal, I want to eat it. So I think there's some, maybe there's some morality type issues in there, other than just performance. But sure, I can make a list of probably 5 or 6 things that are interesting that would cover reloading. And
another thing, Nick L is talking about cleaning, and I wouldn't mind doing that with you.
Sure.
I think that could be its own live stream. And I don't know if you have the ability to have your webcam in front of a gun and be working with it in that capacity.
Yeah, I've got a full computer down in my gun room, so I can be on the bench.
Okay.
The ultrasonic, sure.
Okay, that's great. And another thing, well, maybe we'll do this on a gun cleaning one. We'll do a scope mount, a scope mount for the AR-15. What do you say?
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm going to put those on my list. You put those on yours. We'll put it together. So this is the last thing I'm going to do. I'm going to put the link to the Facebook group again. Mark is he's a moderator over there. So if you're not a part of the group, go over there and request to join. I will immediately put you right through. And then everybody go over there and just say hi to Mark. And he'll say, if you got questions, just ask him and he'll answer them. So there we go. So we're going to end this so he can go get some of his elk pot pie, and he'll let us know how good it is.
All right.
And okay, let's do this, if you don't mind, Mark. Would it be okay if you took a picture of that elk pot pie and put it on the gun group, and everyone go into that and say hi to Mark? How's that? Okay.
Sure, I'll put it up.
Okay, that sounds fun. So everyone, we're going to end the live stream, but not until we have roll call. I want everybody to just thank Mark for his humbleness and his knowledge and his professionalism, and I'll call you out. And click on the Carbon Arms link in the description box below. Go over and check Carbon Arms out. That's his business. That's just part of what he does, and what he does very good. Trust me. Okay, so Kyle Lusk is okay. Walter Bunning is out. Kyle Lusk is out, and we'll put it on Mark. Put the show on you. Jeff Moore is out. Jay is out. Nick L is out. Odd Todd is out. Bob Preston is out. Andy 79Z28 is out. Kyle Lusk is out. Sergeant Sandman, good to see you. He's out. Chico Wise is out. Jeff Moore is out. AR Precision is out. And Helo's on the T7. Jason Foley is out. Slim Fire is out. Okay.
All right.
There we go. Hey, I really appreciate your time. And Kenneth Hayes is out. I appreciate your time. It's great. It makes it even better. So.
Good. All right.
Okay.
We had fun.
Gateway Auto Clinic is out. Hey, Gateway Auto Clinic. It's good to see you. Charles Miller is out. Okay. We are out in 3, 2, 1.